Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Well, hello and welcome to Manx Radio's Countryside with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. On this week's programme, the Mart. You were there finding out, a little bit happier news and a few more people there this week, Kiri, was it?
Yes, it was certainly a very busy Mart with half term. There was a lot of generations in that filled the packed room. But the prices were good as well. They were up on last week. They were running around about the £2 a kilo mark. And some of the little cattle were quite dear as well. So it was good trade all round, I think.
Yeah, and also there was some calf judging going on too.
Yes, young Tom Kane, a young farmer from Crosby, he had the job of sorting out the ring before the sales. Had to first to four in the prime calves, suckle calves, and he had a great job. It took a while to sort out, but he got there in the end.
Yeah, Geoffrey Boot, the new DEFA minister, I popped along to have a chat with him with this unenviable task ahead of him, I think, with the forestry, the food, the fisheries, the agriculture all in together, isn't it?
It's a lot of areas to cover and a lot of knowledge to have as well, the ins and outs of each of the sectors. And he's going to have a challenge on his hands, but a lot of enthusiasm and passion, I think it will drive forward.
Goes a long way, doesn't it? Yeah. And also a fantastic exhibition on at Michael Village of old photographs of the old farms and village, how it used to be. And that was really great to look back on that nostalgic side of things. And that's something that's grown in popularity, isn't it? These pictures seem to be getting found from places and scanned and be able to put on social media, isn't it?
Oh, it's lovely to look back and see some of them. But some of these towns and villages have expanded beyond recognition, really. But it's nice to see the old ways, and like you see, all the wheelbarrows and greps and low doorways and things that you see in the old pictures, and you don't ever imagine them being there.
No, well, that's all in this week's Countryside, so here it is.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
I popped along to speak to the new DEFA minister, Geoffrey Boot, to find out, with all his roles that he's got ahead of him in agriculture, in fisheries, forestry, and of course food as well. It's a big remit to take in. There's probably lots of paperwork before he actually gets started. I went along to find out how he was settling in.
Well, it's a steep learning curve. I have no bedtime stories anymore, just briefing papers from DEFA. And learning the ropes, really. Although I was embedded in the department for a year prior, my role was to do with food rather than generalities, but I was aware of the department structure and sat in department meetings, so I had a feel for the department before I joined.
What about the DEFA? It's got a wide range of fairly different activities to look after: the fisheries, forestry, agriculture, food.
It's very diverse, and of late we've taken on a regulatory role with Office of Fair Trading. In fact, my second question in the Keys, or Timwold Keys, was an OFT question on Manx gas, which doesn't sort of seem to relate very well to DEFA, but it does nowadays, and that's another area to learn about.
What sort of things can you know beforehand? I mean, obviously, you've lived on the Isle of Man long enough now, and you sort of hear on the grapevine what's going on. But is it different when you get all the papers and actually see it written down? What can be improved or what needs to be looked at? Can you look at papers and think,
It's an interesting one. I actually own a farm, but I don't farm hands-on. But I have had quite a lot to do with local farmers, so I can relate to them to a certain extent. But yes, when you start to see things from the other side, there are different views. I have some fairly set views on where I think we should be going as an island in the agricultural sector. I think it's a very valuable sector to the island, one that is undervalued in some respects, particularly when it comes to GDP. It's not all about GDP, it's about the way the island looks and feels and the environment we live in. That's very important to people coming to work and live here and start businesses.
You see on social media and stuff nowadays, because that's something that's moving on. There's a lot of younger people, I suppose, taking over the roles of farming here on the Isle of Man. When you see the feedback they're getting from showing pictures of the carrots with the dirt still on them sort of thing, a lot of people are wanting to go back to that way in a way, but then there's still the other side of them that just want the cheapest carrot going.
I think that there is an element of people who will buy what I call more natural produce, stuff that looks as if it's been grown organically or indeed grown organically. But at the end of the day, mainstream shoppers look at price and quality. and we can't get away from that. So,
do you think they look at quality?
I think they do. Price is probably the prime motivator, but quality also has something to do with it, because you only buy a bit of tough old bully beef once, and you go and look for something else next time round. So once bitten, twice shy. So at the end of the day, price, yes, but there is an element of quality, and I think that's where we can, with our local produce, score. And when it comes to things like food miles, carbon footprints, not that important to a lot of people, but nevertheless something that's growing in importance. And with our UNESCO biosphere status, we have a marketing tool there, not just for people buying on island, but for off-island sales as well.
The meat plant's been the centre of many ministers, I suppose, in the past. I mean, is there still room for it on the island?
Well, I hope so. From my perspective, I see the meat plant as a strategic asset, because regardless of what people say, oh yes, we can send our animals across and we can have slaughter across and all the rest of it. As soon as the meat plant goes and people don't have that, or farmers don't have that option for their animals, we're going to be at the mercy of the UK buyers and UK markets. And I think that's something that will be a sad day for farming on the Isle of Man.
Fishery side of it, there's new initiatives getting spoke about quite regularly, and the fishing industry seems to be working all together with the administration side of it, plus the actual fishermen hands-on and lobster fishermen themselves.
Well, we have a future fisheries strategy which brings together a lot of things with regard to conservation and also stocking levels and fishing effort and various aspects. The fishermen are working well, but I think there's still some work to be done. People complain, a lot of foreign vessels still fishing in our waters. They're only paying a licence fee, and frequently we don't see what's landed and we don't get any economic benefit from that. I don't know for the future, maybe we need to look at some reciprocity, I get the word right, because our fishermen fish in other waters, but we need to look at where the balance is. I know that this year Queenie stocks, for instance, appear to be 30% of what they were in 2011. Now that's a big fall. All right, that was a good cyclic year in 2011, but it is a worrying trend.
Also, the Barul, the Manx protection vessel, keep an eye on things. That's been busy of late, I hear, on the grapevine.
Yes, indeed. You will maybe seen the press release. A Scottish boat was apprehended using satellite technology, and the Barul boarded it, and the vessel captain was fined £12,000. The catch, nearly £5,000 worth of queenies or scallops, confiscated, and of course court costs. So that is a deterrent, and it just goes to show that we are looking after our waters, and I'm very keen that we are seen to be policing and also enforcing our fisheries policy.
A lot's been happening with the forestry world as well, and the Isle of Man forests. That's been an ongoing one as well. Have they got to the last tree that had the disease yet?
Phytophthora, I think it's called. Yes, no, they haven't. That the answer is there. I think the policy has changed. I'm not sure exactly, but certainly we were being proactive in trying to fell nearly everything. I think we've lost that battle, and felling will take place where it can now and is economically viable. We've now got a debarking plant in the sawmill, so we're re-entering the firewood market with the diseased timber, as it were. But I think in forestry strategy terms, we're looking at forestry as more as an amenity asset as well as a forestry asset, and that's where we're going with some of our initiatives of late.
And that's one thing that the public have been right behind as well, haven't they? They've been sort of crying out for stuff to do outdoors for the younger generation, not just the younger ones, and now they're finally getting something.
Yes, I think we're certainly providing something that the public want there, and you only have to go to some of the plantations where you have cycling, horse riding, other activities, and see how many people are there over the weekend periods to know that this is a policy that's very popular, and of course it's contributing to the health of people as well, because it's getting them out and about in the countryside, and hopefully they will appreciate the Isle of Man environment as well while they're out there.
So all in all, just at the start of it now, so a lot more, I suppose, to pick up, and just hope that you've got some good people beneath you that can keep you informed with all the information you need.
Well, obviously, officer support is paramount. I can't be everywhere and do everything. I've appointed 2 department members, Tim Baker and Martin Perkins, both of whom seem very able individuals, and I'm hoping within the next week or so they'll be inaugurated, as it were, and online, and will help me with DEFA for the next few years.
There we are, the Minister for the Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture, Geoffrey Boot there, just telling us about how he's learning the ropes at the moment. I'm sure he's got plenty of ideas along with his team as well, Kiri, and it's a big... Well, all the ministers have got big responsibilities, but a lot to cover, I suppose, with forestry, fishing, food, and the agriculture world in particular.
It is a big area to cover, and a lot of knowledge needed as well. And it's difficult times in agriculture at the minute, so he's got a big undertaking there.
I wouldn't say it's just in agriculture, though, because obviously you'll have heard him talking there about how they're trying to protect the Manx Queenie and King Scallop fishing as well, and of course the Brule out there defending the Manx water, so to speak. Sounds like the Battle of Sky Hill again, doesn't it? But it's nice to know that they're actually keeping an eye on, I suppose, technology today, that they're satellite tracking the boats and things. But I'm sure some will find some ways of slightly bending round it. But of course, as long as they're looking after it, I think it's in good order. And I think he's got, I think he's keen. That's one certainty, and I'm sure that he's got a good backing of the team behind him as well.
A good bit of enthusiasm. It goes a long way, really.
It does indeed. Enthusiastical people at the Mart, wasn't there?
There was. It was a good trade at the Mart this week. It was a little bit more buoyant than last week, and yeah, it was a good sign. I spoke to Tom Kane on the recent calf show, and he gave me his opinions on what was the best on the day.
Yeah, it was brilliant to be asked. I never really judged before, except from the young farmer stock judging competitions.
And you had your dad to guide you, or was it all your choices?
No, we sort of agreed on most of the decisions. It was only, there was a couple we didn't agree on, but we managed to get to a conclusion.
And what type of beast were you looking for? Because obviously there was different age groups.
Yeah, well, we were looking for something a bit of size, good width and good shape, and yeah, just nice stylish beast as well.
Which class did you prefer? There was heifers and bullocks?
Yeah, there was lightweight heifers and heavyweight heifers, and the same for the bullocks. And then I think it was a lightweight bullock that we put champion. It just had real nice width, about a good shape.
So from here you'll be looking to go to do the fat stock show maybe?
Well, yeah, hopefully we have a couple of animals for that as well.
Oh well, I'll look out for you then, but that's a good job done today, Tom. Well done.
Oh, thanks.
That was Tom Kane reflecting on his role as suckler calf judge.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, after catching up with Tom Kane and his experience at judging the first of the suckler calf sales, I caught up with Peter Quayle, the auctioneer. He gave me some feedback on the recent sales.
We had a good turnout. There's some super calves. Some of the best calves are on that first Wednesday. You know that Tom Kane was the judge and his father Lee. Some really good stock, and the winners were the Creers from Killangel. Maybe second and third reserve were the Alan Sandra Jones from Croydon Bain.
Now these calves go on then to be sold, and they will stay locally on the Isle of Man?
Yes, I think nearly all the suckle calves stay on the island. They've just been weaned, and they do tend to shout a bit. You might hear a little shouting in the background. They go on to their new homes, and they're kept through the winter, and then maybe later on next summer they'll either be finished, or the best of them, the heifers, will be kept for breeding. So,
what were the prices like this year compared to the last few years?
The sellers have been a little bit disappointed. I think they were aware that prices were likely to be down a bit, because the last year or two prices have been very high, and then the returns from the meat plant have been disappointing. So they were big enough to realise that prices were going to be down, but maybe just last week some of the smaller calves were maybe less than they should have been, and some were taken home, and they'd probably be put back with the cow and run on for another few months and maybe be sold at a later stage.
And today, Peter, there was a lot of good cattle through again, a lot of Limousin cross cattle. Some of the smaller cattle were quite expensive.
Quite expensive, depends whether you're buying or selling. The buyers need to buy them at a reasonable price to be able to make something on them. They can afford to pay a little bit more per kilo because the cattle will grow out of it, and hopefully they will make a profit at the end of it. But the seller needs a decent price too. It's a very finely balanced industry, and there's got to be a bit for everybody, and if it's not that way, it just doesn't work.
And today there was also some in-calf heifers. You know, some of the younger breeders were buying these.
Yes, always good. I mean, there's some youngsters who are just starting off, and it's great to see them buying their own stock and the excitement of lucky enough to buy it and pay the price and look forward to then to a calf in the springtime. There's nothing better than seeing a cow of a calf or a sheep lambing in the springtime, is there?
This is it. But there also is quite interesting to see some of the stabiliser breeds being sold here on the island. It's a new kind of trend.
The Limousin and the Charolais and maybe Simmental are the more popular ones. There are odd stabilisers about, but I think most of them are being kept. The people who have them generally keep them for their own breeding purposes, so there aren't too many that come through, but they are a breed that apparently are on the up.
Also, with the long winters and the costs, and this year there's been talk of a lot less straw. You know, does it affect the mart?
It's bound to affect the profitability of it. You need straw to keep them clean through the winter. Stock always do better when they're kept clean. As straw's tight and the price has gone up, or going up, we hear some prices, so it does make people a bit wary about how many they can keep and comply with all the welfare standards.
And today there seems to be a lot of local buyers buying and keeping them on the island. Is there still a lot of export trade through the mart?
There's one or two, the exporters, or three maybe, that buy at the mart, and we're always pleased to see them. They put a bottom in it and they get some cattle, but we do need that trade as well. But like I said before, the cattle today, because of the type they are, and they may not travel so well, so these are much more likely to stay on the island. I think probably they all will.
So we've got forthcoming sales. Is Anna Carouche and Graham Taylor coming on board?
Yes, we've got Graham Taylor's sale on Saturday, and then we've got another good sale at the mart. There's lots of cows and calves afoot, good cattle, some farm machinery at Graham Taylor's sale, and then the following week we've got in-calf heifers again and more cattle, and then we've got Anna Carouche's on the Saturday, the 5th of November at the mart.
So lots of good cattle coming forward then.
This is the right time to be trading for buyers and sellers, and before the onset of winter. It's been a wonderful spell, this weather-wise, just to help stock just not make too much mess out in the fields, and they're coming into the yards and coming through the mart in good condition, and they've had a nice back end and they've grown on well.
It certainly shortens that horrible winter, Peter. Well, thank you and good luck for the forthcoming sales.
Thank you.
That was Peter Quayle, the auctioneer for Central Marts.
Well, some good positive feedback from
It
the
is.
mart this time.
Yes, it's been slow getting going for the winter calf sales, but prices were around about the £2 a kilo mark, which is normal for this kind of the end of this year. They were a bit slow last week, running around about the 150, 160 mark, but things seem to be picking up.
Is there room for more improvement yet? As a farmer?
Well, yeah, there's always plenty of room for good prices, but no, it seemed to be a little bit more flamboyant and lots of positive talk, so hopefully, all being well, it'll be a nice back end, so a short winter will certainly help, and if trade keeps going, I think there'll be a few happy farmers around.
Oh yes, good to have a good back end. But was there many people there?
Yeah, there was plenty of people there, young and old, and it's always nice when half term's on and see a lot of the younger generations there with their grandparents, and even a few bidding away as well.
A few of them trying to sell the kids, I would imagine, at half term, wouldn't there? Well, I popped along to Kirk Michael village where there was an exhibition on in the hall of old farms and old villages of how they were in days gone by here on the Isle of Man. And I popped along to find out where all the pictures came from and spoke to Roy Kennick, who told me a little bit more about them.
Well, we were very lucky that Mrs. Terry Vaughan has a wonderful collection of old postcards, and she was quite happy for us to borrow these and take some copies off them and blow them up and put them on display. So we were very lucky to get that source of material.
These date back quite a long way, some of them. What date would be the oldest picture?
Well, difficult to date it precisely, but it's certainly the late 19th century. So you're talking about late 1800s for some of them. But again, the majority of them are probably when Michael was a famous tourist resort, and a lot of postcards were done of that time. So you're talking about the early 20th century, there's quite a few of. But the earliest, we think, is going back into the late 1800s.
You talk about the tourist side of it. Would most of that have been Glenwillan, really?
Well, Glenwillan came a bit later, about the 1920s, I think, when Glenwillan took off as a pleasure ground. And then, of course, it was taken over by the railway company who then developed it even further. And then it became a popular place. The trains would be bringing lots of people down from Douglas to visit. But also, there was lots of people staying in the village, visitors. A lot of people would, like homestay now for TT, people would do that all through the summer. It would be another source of income for them. So Station Road was renowned for having bed and breakfast. And also, some of the houses in the village, they put tourists up as well.
I suppose when you look back at it, the centre, I suppose, of agriculture side was the vast estate at the White House.
Yes, yeah, it's a big area, and we've also got some wonderful aerial photographs taken by Dennis Reed. We were just admiring some of the land at White House, particularly the ploughing. The plough is absolutely smack on, straight line.
Well, people would talk about it if it was
and they wouldn't expect people up in planes taking photographs of it either, but it's there to be seen, and it's a work of art, to be honest. But yes, White House was a big farm, and I was told this story by my cousin, Stephen Kennick, only a couple of days ago, about how they cleared the big fields at the top of what they call the intacs. That was going off, and obviously difficult to manage because of the slope. And it went a bit scrubby, and anyway, a new farmer came in with a caterpillar, tremendous power, and ploughed it up and down. That was the strength of the little caterpillar. Ploughed it all up, cleared it, and then re-sowed it with new grass. And it's now two massive big fields there at the top of, just below Sluchurn.
Well, it just shows you how things have moved on. I mean, there's some wonderful pictures of cart horses and carriages in the middle of the villages in days gone by as well, and people with just a little hand cart, rag and bone men probably as well.
Yes, well, there's one there of the milk being delivered by just a hand cart. And we were just saying, the title of the exhibition is the changing face of Michael. But actually, there are some parts which haven't changed an awful lot, to be honest, and particularly in the very centre of the village, where the shops are. The biggest change, I think, is the lower part of the village, from the butcher's shop onwards. And you can see up there on this photograph here, the road is only single track virtually. You could only get one car through. In fact, we've heard stories that if you had a good load of hay coming up through there, it would be brushing the buildings on both sides of the road. So they obviously had to do something with that, about it. It was the post office that was causing the problem. So they demolished that along with a whole row of buildings and houses on the hillside of the road. And that's what's widened it up.
And it's marvellous that you've managed to get the two pictures next to each other in comparison, isn't it?
That's right, because then, I know people walk down these roads, even villagers walk through and probably don't take a lot of notice, to be honest. It's just there. But when you've got them side by side, you can really see the comparison, which is what we wanted to show, really, with the exhibition, to show the changing face of the village.
And of course now you've got a couple of modern ones, obviously taken from drones and things, and when you compare them to Dennis Reed, the late Dennis Reed's photographs, aerial photographs from years ago, they were pretty good for their day, weren't they?
They were brilliant, yes. I mean, these are copies, and the originals are absolutely sharp as anything. So great quality. But yet it would be good, as you say, to take a modern aerial shot. I think they are available, actually. We just need to get onto them. But it would be particularly interesting to see how the coastline has changed over the last 40 years.
We better move on from that one quickly. But the nice thing about walking around here and looking at these is that everybody's looking at them and going, oh yes, and they've all got their little chip in of what they think or remember of it, some of the older generation.
Yes, we've had some older people of the village come in and former members of the village, and coming up with amazing information, stuff that we hadn't heard before. So we're making a note of all this, and hopefully we'll put it all down and make a proper record of it one day. But this has the basis of a little book, really, and along with the information of the older people, it'll be very interesting.
Got many younger ones that are living in the village and the new houses come in to look at it yet?
Yes, we've had some young people
surprised,
coming in. Are they? Well, I think, it'll be an eye-opener, particularly, those photos of the lower part of the village, it'll be an eye-opener how it's changed. But the aerial photographs, I think, have attracted a lot of attention too, which shows the glen, in its as it was going downhill. I suppose it had actually closed, but but a lot of the old railway viaduct is still there, and the old Bowden Lake is still there. So there's still lots of features to see, from the past.
Roy Kennick there, describing some of the photographs that were on display at Kirk Michael village last week. Some of the old farms as they were, and it's incredible to think that, there was just enough room for 4 for 8 people to get through the doors of the cow houses and things on them, and obviously they just had greps and wheelbarrows to muck them out and things, and now just knock everything down and they put big things in so the tractors can fit in.
Well, this is it. And also the houses, when they start spreading out in the villages, they certainly grow quickly in this day of age, don't they, really?
Michael is expanded as well. I mean, have you got many of the old original buildings with the small doors at your place?
Well, we actually converted our old courtyard or our old loose boxes there sort of the last 3 years or so. Diversification was what we were encouraged to do, and it's give them a heart again. They were all falling down around us, the doors and windows were hanging out of them, but no, there's still a low height, and you still crack your head every now and again if you're not paying attention.
You're living in one of them, Mike.
Well, now and again.
I'm just picturing you now with your head in a trough on the cow chain around you, but probably should leave it there for this week's Countryside.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
There we are, Countryside for this week. The new Minister for DEFA, Geoffrey Boots there, Kiri, and we wish him well in that role because, like we said at the beginning, he's got a lot to sort of get his hands into, really, hasn't he? So.
Oh, he has that. A lot of areas to cover, but I'm sure he'll get a lot of support, and change is always good. It's not always liked in the Manx community, but I think it's definitely needed in agriculture anyway.
Yeah, and your face beaming with smiles today as the prices have gone up for the mart.
Well, this is it. It's always positive, and yeah, with a good back end coming into November now, it certainly shortens the winter and definitely helps.
But that's it. We'll see you the same time next week. So from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kiri Kermode.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.